So checking your alignment, so your feet both shoulder width, approximately, parallel, hang from the string. The gravity, take the weight of your arms and hands straight down. The chin is down slightly and slightly to open the back of the neck. Lower back is pressed back a little bit, so it's almost straight. Release the abdomen. Allow the weight to fall freely through your legs and feet. Become aware of the skeletal structure. Give the physical weight over to the bones. And allow or intend some space between the bones. Becoming aware of little cushions of space between each and every bone. Cushion of space in the joints. So you're being held up physically by the bones and the spaces between the bones. And each out breath is a releasing breath. Hang the hips to stretch the spine. Release the abdomen. Again, with each out breath, see if you can release a little bit more weight, a little bit more tension. Just letting the weight free fall through the legs and feet. And each little bit that you can release down through the legs and feet directly opens and releases the upper body. So lower body is becoming more and more grounded with each breath. Upper body is becoming more and more freed, opened. So there's a yin and yang going on there. We have that groundedness and the openness, expandedness going on at the same time. And it's really good if you can directly connect that dropping, sinking, falling through the lower body, directly connect it to the opening and releasing, freeing of the upper body. And center awareness. Letting the mind and the breath settle in the bowl of the hips. And continuing to roam through the body so that it's not a set and forget kind of thing. Definitely not. It takes continual alignment, readjusting, micro adjustments. So it's definitely a continuing process, not a set, I'm good, and we move on to something else. It's continually adjusting, continually releasing, letting go. Again, pressing the neck back. The back of the neck is long and open, and the same with the lower back. And let's start with some arm drops. So arms flow forward just like in commencement. And for our purposes now, really accentuating the weight of the arms, feeling the weight of the arms, and then completely releasing them with gravity to drop to the lap. So then flowing the arms forward, slow and heavy, becoming very conscious of the weight of those arms. Then as if someone were to snip strings that are pulling the wrists up, they're cut, and they free fall with gravity. So the challenge there is, how much can I truly let go? How much can I surrender the weight over to gravity? So continual process of encouraging myself to let go a little bit more, release a little bit more, a little more completely. And it's probably good, at least at first, to exhale on the drop. Breathing in, and exhale, releasing. Again, just see how good you can get at just letting go. emphasizing the weight on the way up and emphasizing free fall release on the way down. Then the same process to the sides. And at some point, you just cut those strings. Tremendously simple exercise, but it is transformative. You do arm drops and or arm swings for more than a few minutes at a time. It changes the body. And as always, don't be shy about hitting the unmute button. If you have any comments or questions at any time. Continual process in releasing and opening and allowing and surrendering. Now, the next time or two, we'll let the arms swing a little bit before they drop. So they swing, go out, and then drop. Now, we'll need to take special care that we don't do this with the arms. So maybe you release them here at first, and then you do this kind of muscularly. So developing that keen awareness, noticing any little bit of doing, especially here coming down. Letting go of that doing. More and more so. Completely releasing those shoulder joints, completely allowing gravity and momentum to work on their own. Notice little bits of doing that you are doing, little bits of activation of the muscles. Just notice those areas, those points. And then the hip turns, we do that. So hip turn, hip turn. Allow the knees to be a little bit bent. You don't want to turn on a straight knee. Release the abdomen. The shoulders are pulled down as the arms rise. How much can you not do the arm swing? And just allow and let. Breathe into the abdomen as you hang the spine. And then you can add some more hip turns in there. Turn, 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 turn. Remember, you're not crossing your arms for that swing. in front of your body, you're turning your hips a little bit. So watch out for, again, crossing your arms here. Here I'm using my chest muscles and arm muscles. I'm simply dropping my arms straight down. Arms simply drop straight down. I turn my hips, and I turn my hips, turn my hips, turn my hips. So that is distinct from doing an arm in front and behind by controlling with my muscles. I'm simply turning my hips to make that action in front and back with my arms. So that's, again, very much letting go and not doing. So I drop my arms, turn my hips, turn my hips. When the arms are ready to come down again, I turn my hips, and that keeps the arms moving front and back, not my arms doing that. And then you can just continue with those hip swings. You can do as many as you want. You do 6 or 8 or 10, as many arm swings as you want. Releasing those shoulder joints, releasing the abdomen, hanging the tailbone. Okay, and hanging out. Then going into commencement and just enjoying perhaps how this has changed the feeling of commencement, changed your arms, changed your body, changed the energy. And just doing commencement on your own timing. Soft, smooth, minimal muscle work. Breathe, hang out and breathe. And then the palms face each other. Palms facing, we'll do some circling of the drum. A little bit of bending of the knees. Again, work on taking the work out of the arms. Less and less stuff in the arms. Just a movement of your intention, your mind leading that movement. Less and less physical muscle work in the arms. The shoulders stay sitting. Belly released. The spine dangles long. And then send your mind clearly, definitively the other direction, and just notice your arms and hands follow that change in mental direction. Back of the neck, press that back a bit. Press the lower back flat, release the abdomen, hang the spine. Becoming very conscious that your palms are facing each other. Nothing in the shoulders. Okay, a little bit wider. Toes out, knees out. Hang out first before you start moving. Again, release into the ground. Press into the ground to shift the weight and turn the hips. And actually very slowly, gradually let your arms come up. So doing serving T here, but it might take a few movements before your arms come into a full serving T position. Very, very minimal stuff in the arms. It doesn't even matter if you don't get your arms up very far or they may not move very much. Just hanging out, accessing the ground because you're hanging out, pressing down that leg into the ground to cause the weight shift and hip turn, and let that move the arms however much they move the arms. So kind of lingering with that feeling of the arm drop still, and not trying to do too much with the arms, not necessarily getting to that full big position with the arms. Just hanging out, reminiscent of the arm swings. Release, release, settle. And just use the ground for your movement. Hanging out, releasing into the ground for your hip turn and weight shift. Doesn't matter so much with the arms. Hang out and release. Back of the neck, pushing that back, pushing back the lower back. Release the abdomen. Let the weight of the arms pull the shoulders straight down. Into cloud sailing by. Elbows stay down. If the elbows are up, we're tending to pull up the shoulder and tension in the shoulder and neck area. So elbows are down. Elbows are lower than the hands. And let those arms and hands be dragged through the sky, or dragged through the water. You're just hanging out, pressing to the ground to shift the weight. Good. And then cloud hands. And less in the arms. More just about hanging out and releasing into the ground. Releasing the abdomen. Conjuring up that feeling of the arm swings. And the feeling of the arm drops. Okay. And some danyus. Back of the neck is straight. Pressing into the ground, simply pushing into the ground with your legs and feet. Almost a free fall on the way down. Pressing the feet into the ground sends the elbows and arms forward away from the body. So you're not picking up the arms. Pressing into the ground pushes the elbows in front away from the body. Rounding the back and opening up the shoulder joints. Elbows are pointing towards the ground the entire time. Releasing the abdomen. On the way up, energize the little fingers. As you rotate the hands over, energize the thumbs. As you press into the ground with the legs and feet, sends the elbows forward, energize the little fingers. On the way down, energizing the thumbs. And the next time or two, you simply stay up as the hands drift down. Inch your feet in, hang out, weight through the feet, gathering everything into the dantian. Each out breath is a releasing breath. And gently rocking out. Okay, given our attendance in the class here today, are there any specific questions that you might have on your mind before we go into something? A move or a principle, position, posture?
Yeah, I don't know if Luann's got a question coming up, but I'm curious about, like, you know, just in the Danu, is there a way that we can more readily tap the sense of like descending with gravity through movements? Because we talk about like dropping, and I'm finding that's effective. What I struggle with sometimes is like how to where to implement that, or how to think about it in the context of movements in the form.
How to think about the process or allowing of dropping?
Yeah, yeah. Like I probably need some concrete examples to, like, I get it, in stationary, but as soon as we move,
Hmm,
then it's
right,
kind of wobbly and weak for me.
right. So how to stay in contact with that continual hanging or continual dropping.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so excellent. Now, first and foremost, it takes strength, leg strength, and then also, therefore, stamina. Because if your strength is good for 10 seconds, then you won't be able to access it after 10 seconds. So it takes strength and stamina in the base, legs and hips. So that is really a prerequisite. And so, of course, all of us want to build that up more and more. If that strength and stamina isn't quite there yet, you want to minimize, in terms of this, if we're doing movements, room lengths or part of the set, you want to minimize how much you sit and the knee bend, because very quickly you'll go into contraction because you're getting tired and tightness, and you can't hang out and drop whenever you're struggling to hold your position or to hold that depth of knee bend. So it's a different time where the person would work on strength, that they work on that strength on their own, specifically by doing Danyus, doing the set at a deeper knee bend, and working that strength building separately. Because when we're working on something like hanging out and dropping, if that strength isn't there and stamina isn't there, very quickly you won't be able to work with that process. So if that strength and stamina isn't quite there yet, you want to elongate the time before you reach exhaustion or tiredness. So you minimize how much you sit and what you sink. Having said that, again, I would emphasize, until you have that strength, there's a lot of times that we're standing on one leg, and as we step and we're going really slow, putting the foot out, that's a long time on one leg. Not even talking about actual, one-legged squats like kneel at C bottom, snake creeps down. Just doing a regular step, if you're hanging out and going nice and slow, that's basically a mini squat on one leg. So we really need that strength and stamina to be able to access truly hanging out and truly dropping. But let's work with that a little bit energetically, because dropping, hanging out, this is so primary. Other phraseology is developing the root or sinking the chi. So we can work with that energetically and intentionally. So let's spend a little time with that. So let's go back just to regular standing. And again, just regular standing, to really get to the goods, we need to be able to hang out and stand for a long enough time period. So we're back to the same, even though it's just standing, it requires to stand for more than 10, 15, 20 minutes, requires strength in not only the muscles, but the connective tissues, the ligaments and tendons, and throughout the entire body, actually, in the spine, so we don't slump. So even just standing to really start to mine the good stuff, we need to have the strength to be able to hang out there long enough. So let's work with sinking the chi, developing the root, and that downness, the down direction, is primary. And eventually, in all our moves, it's accessed from that hanging, dropping, or downness. There's up movement of chi as well. And sometimes we want to emphasize that, perhaps, depending on what we want to work on. But generally speaking, down is primary. Just like yin and yang are complementary. You often hear that they're equal and opposites. They're complementary. That's yes. But push comes to shove, yin is actually primary. yin is actually primordial. So down creates up, down creates movement, and when push comes to shove, it comes down to yin. So in terms of what we're doing now, that's down direction, down energy, hanging out, relaxing down, letting gravity work. So the standing here, and do the best you can to not collapse. Every few moments, come back to your skeletal structure. And you can have your hands at the danshin or hanging at the sides, whichever is easier to feel, and create this idea, feeling, and intention of sending your mind and energy down through your legs, through your feet, into the ground. Again, notice if there might be any following of your body, because it's natural for your body to follow your intention. So in this case, we don't want that to happen. So we went down. And of course, very common imageries is you can imagine that your legs are sinking beneath the floor, that you're up to about mid-shin at the floor, and your legs and feet are growing beneath the floor, or literally like trees, tree roots extending down deep into the ground, 20, 30, 40 feet into the ground. So these are common imageries, and we're just doing these different ways to get the mind down below the ground from our body flowing down. Of course, where the mind goes, the chi flows. So whether you're imagining roots of a tree or your legs extending down beneath the floor, you hang out with each out breath. How much can you allow and intend? There's a balance between those two, allow and intend, more energy to flow down into the ground. Every once in a while, remind yourself to stay open and released in the upper body. Now, for some of you, it also might be interesting to imagine the same process that's happening with your hands and fingers. Your fingers are growing long, extending, and they're actually extending down below the ground as well. Again, we want to take a special moment that's not pulling us forward and down or collapsing. In fact, as we started the standing meditation with, as we drop the weight, allow the weight to exit, connect that directly to opening and emptying the upper body. So as the feet extend down through the ground, where your chi settles deeper and deeper, roots into the ground deeper and deeper. If you want, you don't have to do this now, but you could allow the same process to happen with your hands and fingers. It's not necessarily what you would do at first, but eventually that really adds to the experience. And with each out breath, release any accumulated tension that's happening because of your focus, concentration, and any physical tension that's accumulating. Back of the neck pushes open, tailbone hangs. And again, that downness, connect that directly to an opening and releasing so that you're not just being pulled down. Okay, gently come out of that. Just do a little bit of toyus. I'm going to stay with this theme for at least a little bit. Just basic toy. But as we shift the weight, we're sending the weight and the mind down beneath the ground, maybe 6 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet below the ground. So as you come to the forward leg, sink down that front hip, down into the ground. You might imagine your leg is an empty pipe or hollow conduit, and the weight and energy just falls through, however you might imagine it. Or you might imagine, again, a tree root. Again, as you shift the weight back, you're not staying in your body with your weight and your energy. Extend straight down, maybe 20 feet, 15, 20. So at first, this is a very imaginative thing, just using your imagination, which is really your intention, and it becomes more and more concrete, and you start to experience more and more physical effect because of that. You're starting to work below and beyond your body, beyond your body. beyond your body. And we know that our energy system extends beyond our body. So working with moving, elasticizing that energy body, setting the energy down beyond the floor, down the hip, through the leg, down beyond the floor. Eventually, just the body succumbs to that, allows the tensions, energies, just the flow down. And we just need to take care that we don't let the physical body follow suit by collapsing. And you can switch sides whenever you want. So we're emphasizing the hanging out and then dropping below the ground. Hanging out and specifically dropping below through that one leg below the ground and then through the other leg. Directly down through that leg and foot. So now our locus of operation is below the ground. The locus of movement is from the legs down below the ground, almost like the floor doesn't exist. The floor is a made-up thing. The floor is a made-up thing, just a concept, and your leg and or energy just continues through the mirage of the floor. So again, when we work on anything, we want to really focus on it and isolate it. So not worried about too many other things, just working on getting the mind, the intention, the intentional flow below the leg and foot, deep into the ground. So let's do some rubrics of parting horse's mane with that main focus. So as you shift the weight into that forward leg, your primary focus and idea is that you're just letting the weight fall through your torso, through the hip, through the leg, deep into the ground, way below the floor. Once in a while, remind yourself to, oh, I can hang out maybe a little better. I can release the abdomen. So notice any accumulated tension that happens physically because of the slow movement and also because of the mental effort, releasing those tensions. Let the weight free fall through that leg. Let your intention, your mind, go deep into the ground, like roots of a tree. And so we're getting back to, the slower you go, the more you can start to access this. But of course, to go really slow and controlled takes more strength and stamina. So we're back to the prime importance of developing the strength and stamina of the legs and hips. Just intending and allowing the weight and energy to fall several feet below the floor. Release the abdomen as you hang out. Let's try some brush knee. Again, the primary emphasis is, can I hang out, allow the weight and energy to extend beneath the floor. Depending on where you're at, you can also imagine the tailbone extending below the floor as well. So if you have room in your brain to work with that, if not, that's fine. But when you do, you've had some experience with this, if you allow your tailbone to do the same thing, almost like a third leg, you're like a tripod. The tailbone turns you into a tripod. So your tailbone is falling below the floor and eventually way below the floor as well. You'll find that will correct your posture and really increases your rootedness, your stability, your groundedness. So you can play with that, experiment with that, and decide if you want to spend some time with that Or if you want to just focus on one leg sinking down below the ground and then the other. Release the abdomen as you hang out. Okay, and cloud hands is really good for working with this as well. Take your time to enter cloud hands. So of course, first of all, mindfully hanging out and just emphasizing the dropping, allowing, just like those arm drops that we're doing. Just like the arm drops, emphasizing the down, emphasizing the drop, but being mindful that we're not collapsing. But other than that, it's just like arm drops. Gravity is working. Dropping through that leg more and more and more and more, deeper and deeper and deeper. And then the other leg. So we are extending our awareness, our mind, our intention below the floor. Below the floor. And eventually, as we develop strength, more and more strength and stamina, we can just allow that dropping, allowing the dropping, allowing the hanging out, allowing the dropping. But we can't really allow that very much at all if we don't have the strength and stamina. But we can work our intention. We can work the energy direction, the intention, the chi flow, sinking the chi. But eventually, when you have the strength and stamina, the physical allowing, the physical dropping will add. So the physical dropping, physical allowing will add to the energetic direction to really complete it. Become a very full and true sinking of the chi and very rooted groundedness. And you'll notice again, if the strength and stamina is there, especially, if you can really release the waist area and abdomen, you'll notice an extra amount of weight that can drop through from the upper body, through the lower body into the floor. So it's a very interesting thing that there's a direct correlation, a direct linkage from releasing the waist and abdomen and more weight and energy just flowing down. Okay, so let's see if there's any comments or questions about this process, this idea and this activity. Any experiences? Sue?
Yeah, hi. I just had a question. You talk about the importance of dropping the chi, but don't you want to keep the chi inside you?
Yeah, so that's a fundamental question. Yes. But sending the chi out, we also want to be able to move the chi. So that would be a yin-yang situation as well. And how much yin we do, how much yang we do, that can vary greatly. But those are two things that we want happening, ultimately at the same time. But when we're working on something, we focus on one particular aspect of that. So keep
keeping the chi in your body, yes, and centralizing it and storing it. That's fundamental to health and to energy work, and even in terms of the martial aspect of it. But the other aspect of it is moving the chi. And that includes moving the chi inside and within the body, but also beyond and outside the body.
Okay.
So two aspects. And eventually it can be at the same time. But when we're working on things, generally we emphasize one thing more than the other.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. And again, how much we focus on something, there's a huge, infinite really, ratio potential. I can have not only 1% yin and 99% yang, and of course the opposite. Of course, you can slice that smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. 0.0000001% one, and so on. So it can vary greatly. Ultimately, it comes down to developing the awareness and deciding what your intention will be. How much will I focus on outflow? How much will I focus on conserving energy? Sometimes it's 100% focusing on conserving energy. Sometimes it's 100% focusing on outflow. This is kind of working the muscle of the energy body, elasticizing it, developing the muscle of intention and awareness. So these are all different things that we work on. And a big part of what we're doing is not only opening up, softening, elasticizing the physical body, but also elasticizing the energy body. And ultimately be able to move your intention infinitely to the horizon or in any other direction. So it's another muscle, another aspect of it. And just one other thing I'll mention as well, and you may have heard this before, we talked about different styles of Tai Chi have different emphasis, different styles of Tai Chi have different qualities. And even within the same style, same large mainframe of a style can vary quite a bit from place to place, school to school, and instructor to instructor, the quality of that. For example, not everybody may be familiar with a lot of different approaches or different styles, but the Cheng Man Cheng style, the Cheng Man Cheng style is a type of Yang style. So not only do we have, again, we have Yang style, we have Wu style, Sun style, we have Chen style, and we have some, a few other styles. So of course it makes sense that going from one major style to another major style, it's going to look different, have a different flavor, and different emphasis. That's pretty straightforward. But as I mentioned, even within the same style, there can be an extreme difference. So the Cheng Man Cheng style is a Yang style, or Yang style, or derived from the Yang family, but is extremely yin. It's extremely yin, and more they directly, extremely work on that verticality. So the very yin, close. And also Wu style Tai Chi is closer. So that emphasis is largely on what you said, Sue, keeping the chi in the body, gathering and keeping the chi in the body. And that's their emphasis. So it's a much smaller frame. And it's actually very interesting and good to play with this. And we have in certain classes played with the different expressions and different shapes, because there's a very direct feeling or flavor with each one, very different. So Wu style, Cheng Man Cheng style is more yin, softer, and it would be more yin. And it's more conserving the chi, keeping the chi in. Most other Yang styles, I'd say every other Yang style, because Yang style in general is characterized as big shape. As you know, big shape, big form, and that's more getting the energy more out. And in fact, you may or may not have noticed that we tend to really emphasize in this hanging straight, almost like the Cheng Man Cheng. You watch a Cheng Man Cheng stylist, and they never deviate from this. But actually, interestingly so, the Yang style, and in fact, the original Yang style, has a bit of a, I don't want to call it a lean, but a bit of an angle. I don't know if you've noticed that. But in old pictures, black and white pictures of the Yang family and certain Yang stylists now, they'll have this kind of shape. You see that difference? And that's more of a yang approach. It's a more out there approach. And then there's an approach where you're much more vertical. So different qualities, different flavors. And what's good is to be able to change those qualities and flavors depending on what you want to create and develop or experience. And eventually it becomes totally chosen. Okay, but again, people who are locked in a style, Chengman Ching style, they would never lean. This is what they do and what they work on. Yeah. Any comments or questions about that? Did anybody get a sense of being able to drop below the ground, below that leg, below that foot, either with weight or mind or chi?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, you know, I felt much more secure in my balance and weight shift, like almost as if there was no, even going, you know, into one foot, there was no possibility of wobble because it was just descending
Okay.
down. Yeah.
Right,
But
right.
yeah, I've always struggled with the image of being below the ground. Like, I don't know if I'm feeling that or not, but I definitely, any kind of wobble or like the transition all kind of stayed in this nice sort of cohesive kind of plane.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so I would just mention again that when we have a lot of good strength and I can really hang out, which is really meaning allow the weight to drop, bend the knee bends a bit more, with not any undue stress or tiredness. I can really hang out, really just let everything go and still be supported. Just that allowing physical weight will lead your mind down. It'll become quite a physical thing that will draw, like you say, I'm not quite sure about what does it mean to get below the floor. When you can really just quote unquote hang out, the weight falls, you can follow that dropping of the weight, and that creates the sinking of the chi, gets the mind down there. So it's quite a physical thing that can get you there. So let's just take this just a little step further. As I mentioned, down is primary, and down creates everything else. So let's spend a bit more time sinking the chi or allowing the weight to fall, and connect, as I mentioned, with standing, allowing that to fall through. We don't want that to pull the body down. In fact, we want to make the mental connection that dropping the weight or the energy down liberates the upper body. We want to make that intentional connection. So as we do, let's say, parting horse's mane, and you sink down that front hip down into the floor, see if you can make the connection. And again, fake it till you make it, or just do it with your imagination or with your intellect. Connect the dropping or sinking through that leg to an opening of your shoulder joints. That's probably the easiest access point, is working with the shoulder joints. It's actually everything. As I drop down this front leg, it opens my spine, and that opens my shoulder joints, and that opens my elbows and my wrists, and eventually even my fingers. But I think for just about everybody, it's really going to be the shoulders that are more accessible at first. So as you do some parting horse's mane, you hang out, allow the weight to sink into that front leg. See if you can connect that intentionally to open up your shoulder joints or elongating your arms. You'll need to remind yourself to release the abdomen. Hang the spine. As you allow the weight to fall down that front hip, down that front leg, connect that to opening the shoulder joints. And we're starting to go in the direction of down creates everything. The downness, the dropping creates opening, creates the up movement, creates every other opening, every other movement. Try that with a few brush knees. The main emphasis being on dropping down through that front leg, and see if you can connect that dropping to your shoulders or your arm movement. Dropping into the leg that you're standing into, see if you can have that, send that dropping out through your arms, spread your arms apart. Then dropping down through the front leg. See if you can have that dropping move through your arms. Parting horse's mane is always a good one to start with because the movement is a little bit simpler. Brush knee, it's a more of a complex, sophisticated move. So it's going to be a little harder to find that connection. Let's try a few with cloud hands. As you let the weight fall and your mind, in a sense, to fall through that leg below the ground, that downness, that fallingness, connect that to your shoulder joints, going through your shoulder joints. You may find that pushes your arms and elbows away from your body. That's a good thing. Down creates the expansiveness. Down, the dropping creates the expansiveness. The sinking, the dropping, the hanging and dropping creates the expansiveness. Maybe go specifically through the shoulders or the arms. The down, the dropping creates the openness in the upper body and the openness in the shoulder joints. Okay, how's that going? Anybody find that connection at all?
Yeah, definitely. Like feeling a sense of the expansion out. You know, like in the turn that it's driven by lower body, and then this just opens. You know, like it's without trying to in any way muscularly lengthen
Right.
through that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you're getting that direct connection.
Yeah.
Direct connection. So let's finish with doing a mini set with the emphasis on hanging out and dropping through the leg or legs. And maybe if you can, allow that to create an expansiveness. But again, the primary thing is, can I hang out? How much can I just drop through each leg? Okay, so let's do a mini set together. Hang out, release the abdomen, allow the weight to free fall through your legs and feet, and let that, as you free fall through your legs and feet, let that expand forward. Let that create an expansiveness. As you drop the weight, it directly connects to expansiveness. And everything drops through the legs and feet. Open the back of the neck, back of the lower back. Fall into the left leg. Let that move your right arm. Slowly fall into your right leg. As you stand on the right leg, let the weight fall through that right leg. As more and more weight falls through the left leg, let that move your arms. You'll take a releasing and opening to allow the weight to fall into the leg that you're standing on. That takes good strength to be able to open up in the midst of that exertion. Back of the neck. It is long and open. Same with the lower back. Allows the weight to fall directly down through the spine and skeleton. Release the abdomen so more weight can fall freely through the legs. Maybe even the tailbone sinking below the ground. Hang out, let the weight fall. emphasizing that you're hanging out. Let the shoulders fall down, let the weight fall down through the legs. If you're finding that challenging for the leg strength, that means we need to build up that strength and stamina. You can't really release the abdomen without the leg strength. Hanging, hanging, hanging. Weight free falling. Allow that to open the body. Eventually it becomes quite a joy to just hang out. To hang out, allow nature to work, allow gravity to work, allow the energy to flow and fall freely. Eventually it's quite a pleasant thing, but only when we have the strength and stamina. Otherwise it's just reaching and grasping and struggling. So we need that strength and stamina. Keeping verticality, so gravity can work vertically down through our body. Hang out, hang out. Allow the weight energy just to sink and flow down without any collapsation at all. Release the abdomen.